My name is Laura, and I am 25 years old. After I graduated from college, I got a job at the department store where I work now. I met my husband, Adam, at that department store. At the time I started working there, I was working at the head office as a trainer for the new staff. My first impression of him was that he was quite serious and a strict person. He always kept a very strict eye on staffs, and whenever Adam passed by of me, I always felt nervous around. However, when it came to work, he was very good at his work. At the head of his instructions regarding work were perfect. He was perfect at teaching about it, and I learned a lot from him. I thought he was someone I could boss, even though we didn't seem too along in private. So I had no idea at the time that getting married. One day, I made a big mistake at work. I made a small mistake that resulted in a huge loss for the company. At the time, I was only 20 years old and didn't have the mental capacity to handle such a huge failure. I thought the only way I could take responsibility was to quit. And then Adam, who was my boss, came rescue. Adam came over to my house, where I was taking a few days off from work due to depression, and encouraged me.
You're still a new staff here, and normal to worry about it. But what do you think a trainer like there for? It's to help you grow up and do your job freely. A person who doesn't fail at all car strong and can't grow. I'll take the responsibility for you. Don't be depressed forever. Show you again and do your job with dignity.
I broke down and cried nonstop. Thanks to these words from Adam, to return to work. From then on, Adam went from being boss to someone who I admired. I worked very hard to learn my job, earn his recognition as soon as possible. Seeing me like that, he praised me of everyone, which motivated me ever. In about 2 years, I quickly became a manager at the department store where I worked. From then on, I spent more and more time working alone with Adam, exchanging ideas about the sales floor, and we gradually became closer to each other. Then one day, he confessed his feelings. He and I started going out together. After 3 years of dating, he proposed to me, and we got married. I never thought that, after 5 years, I would marry Adam. You never know how life will turn out. After we got married, we bought with the mortgage loan. I think it was because we both worked at major department stores that we were able to get approved for a mortgage loan to purchase the house. We were thrilled with our new home, always happy. After we were married, we continued for the same company, and everyone told us we were the perfect couple, got jealous about it. We were, of course, happy to hear all that people had been saying about us. But because of this, we also didn't want to become a bad example, so we put more effort into our work. Then, late last year, I enjoyed my married life with Adam very much. But I was especially happy when we decided to start a family. But there was just one problem. At the time, I had already been working in the department store for 5 years. My work performance had been very good, and I had been given the job of a store manager. Since I was in a very important position, I wondered if it was okay for me to quit my job and concentrate on giving back to the community. Was worried that I was being but my morning sickness was already worse, and the time limit was approaching. I discussed the matter with Adam. As a result, we decided that it was best to quit work. While I felt sorry for the company, I would say that I will support the comparable work enough for you too. I'll make it, and you don't have to worry about it. Just concentrate on your pregnancy, as he had done before, made the huge mistake again. His words again lifted a weight off my shoulders, and I was able to concentrate on our soon-to-be child. Shortly thereafter, I was hospitalized. Normally, I wouldn't have needed to be hospitalized, but my early pregnancy was so severe that the doctors decided to keep me under their care, just in case. I spent a lot of time alone in the cabin, which was a bit lonely. But Adam could check on me every day, despite his busy schedule, which gave me a sense of security. Then, after about 3 months in the hospital, I was able to come home. Adam, who took the trouble to get Pa for the day, drove to pick me up and returned home for the first time in time. My home felt somewhat fresh after my long absence, but at the same time, it felt strange. I thought something was different. Looking around the house for a while, noticed something. For some reason, all of my personal belongings that had been in the living room had been moved to my room. I asked Adam about it, but he gave a vague reply, as if he wasn't comfortable with the situation. As I was wondering why he had that, the doorbell suddenly rang. Who could it be at a time like this? As I opened the door, I saw my mother, Christine. I wondered why she was here at a tin this. I had just gotten out of the hospital, wanted to spend at least one day with my son, but I couldn't just turn her away. After I opened the front door, Christina took off her shoes and went into the living room as if it was her own house, without greeting me. Then Christine finally notices me coming back from the front door. Oh, what are you doing out here? I didn't hear you come back.
Oh, I'm sorry, Christine. I'm sorry it's taken me so long to you. I was discharged from the hospital.
Christine gave me a bored look and could have stayed in the hospital and began to relax in the living room. I got closer to Adam and asked, "What are you doing here?" Adam didn't seem to understand why, being confused, and simply replied, "No, my mother has been coming home lately." For my part, I wanted to ask him why Christine was coming over and relaxing as if it was her house. I decided to ask Christine. Directly, Adam was too thick.
Christine, I just got out of the hospital, so to spend at least today with Adam.
Excuse me? I just came here and you want me to know what? You talk as if this is your own home.
I was a little irritated because that's right. It's my house. And it's Adam and I's house that we both bought together. Christine must have seen my frown for a moment because she began to say, "What's wrong?"
This is your house, but it's also as well. Do you know that?
What do you mean?
How can you be so ignorant? It was purchased by my son who is in my family, which means it's ours too. Now, do you understand?
What she was implying was nonsense, and she wanted to butt in and say that I didn't know what she was talking about. But when I tried to argue back, my mom interrupted me and said, "Don't complain too much. She's the one who does everything around the house while you're at school." I finally decided not to say anything to him, even though I wasn't really sure what they were saying. I didn't want to get sick again and be readmitted to the hospital after being discharged, and I thought it was true that Christine was indeed supporting Adam. However, every day after that, Chris to our house to do chores. I didn't like it, but I decided not to say anything because by the time I was a month into my pregnancy, I would be back in hospital again and would have to leave the house. It was quite stressful having her around so often, but finally, at the beginning of last month, I was free from this little nightmare. One day, when I was preparing for hospitalization, Christine arrived home earlier than usual. I opened the front door to find a slim sight. I saw Christine, and behind her were several pieces of luggage.
What are all these luggage for, Christine?
Christine replied in a tired manner, saying, "Of course it's our luggage here." I immediately ran to Adam in the living room and said, "What is the meaning of this?" And in a strong tone of voice,
Oh well, that's just the way it is. My mom and the family are moving in.
How come I didn't hear anything about this until now? Did you just say your mom or family? Please don't tell me that there's CLs moving in.
Then Christine butts in with a comment.
My eldest daughter's family of 3 are all moving in here and living too. It's already decided, so don't make about it.
My husband agreed with Christine and tells me that's the way it is. See, disobey my mother. But there was no way I could be Coney that. Trembling, I asked Adam, why did you such an important matter all on your... Once again, Christine intervened and told you the other day. It's our Esky house, and it's also our family's home, shouted at me. At this point, I was getting very and said, please be quiet, Christy asking my husband. Christine probably didn't think I would talk back to her, so she became very quiet. And I took the opportunity to talk husband.
What do you think you're doing for them to move in with us? We're even going to have a baby next year. You said this house is for us to live in as a family, didn't you?
My husband's response to my question was unbelievable.
What's wrong with them moving in? My mother and sister are my family. There should be no problem living two here. There are more people, and it's rather fun, isn't it?
You're the only one who thinks that because you're related by blood with your mother and sister. But for me, I'm not related to any of them, and it's like 4 strangers showed up at my house all at once. How am I supposed to think that this...
Oh my God, shut up. This is my house. What's so wrong with having an own at your home?
I can't believe that you're saying... Remember? You and I bought this place together, you know?
In the end, time passed with neither giving in. I knew that Adam was a family member, but this was beyond what I had expected. This was the first time I realized was a mama's boy to an unbelievable. If he was like this even before our born, I lost all confidence in my goon being married to him as a fan. I made up my mind right then and said this to Adam.
All right. If you want to live with your mother's sister and her family, I won't say more about it. But in return, I'll leave.
With that, I went out and hurried to office to pick up the divorce paper. I returned home, stood in front of again, and confronted him with the papers.
I can't do this with you anymore. Let's get a divorce.
Adam was surprised when I asked for a divorce, as he did not expect it from me. He stood frozen in front of the door papers for a few seconds, and then, a flash of realization, he opened it and said, "This is it."
How are you going to support your child if you don't even have a job?
Adam looked at me with a smug look on his face, as if he had just said something that made him feel good about himself. His smug face looked just like Christine's, which made me even more angry. My husband snickered at my anger and the divorce papers.
Are you sure? Now we're in a position to get a idiot as you who's going to be in big trouble.
Great. He finally signed it. Now, it's my turn to fight back.
Hey, aren't you forgetting something important? My father runs an apartment rental.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That means I don't have to worry about getting a place to live. Plus, I'll get child support from V. Oh, and I almost forgot. If you and your family are going to live in this house, you have to pay half of the value of this house.
What is the best way to get rid of a cold sore?
My husband seemed to finally realize the situation he was in. His face turned pale as he looked at me.
Well, I guess we won't ever see each other again, but take care. I'll be contacting you through my email now on.
Adam was in shock that he slumped due spot. Christine, who was listening to our conversation, must have understood that Adam had to pay a large sum of money. She stood frozen, holding both hands outstretched. I ignored them both and left the house. After that, it was just a matter of we went through the divorce with peer division and so on. My father allowed me to live in one of his rooms, a slightly better, more expensive room for my own child and grandchild. Thanks to the money I received from the divorce, I didn't have to work after I was born, which allowed me to spend more time with my child. The baby was so sweet, and I enjoyed being with him every day. By the way, about Adam, I heard an interesting story from a colleague from my department store days. I heard that Adam has been living in house with Christine and her sister's family since then. But apparently, sister's children are noisy. Christine said they're running out of money, causing constant stress to him, and he's exhausted at work and feels pretty depressed all the time. As a result, he started making a lot of mistakes at work and was eventually rendered useless and sent to a department where there was little work to be done. Furthermore, the salary at the new is lower than the old one, making even more difficult and causing him mentally. This is what he deserves. On the other hand, after 2 years spending plenty of time with my chi, able to get a job at another major store because of my skills from that, the pay is about the same as my old. I can finish work earlier in the eve. I can drop off and pick up my child, any problems. I am now working hard and doing my raise my loving child. I would like to praise myself for getting a divorce from my ex-husband at the time when I decided that I could raise my child on my own. Thank you for watching until the end. Please subscribe to our channel. See you in our next video.